on your regs. I'm working on the regs in Andover and Scotland and Hampton.
Wow.
I left Andover and Hampton 3 to 6 months ago. And at that time that I left, we were working on our regulations, the 2008 regulations. We were updating them. We all did the regs at the same time. And currently I'm working with Scotland and Columbia only. And so we're working on our regulations. If you go to the town website and you open up the IWWC regulations, what you're going to pull up is the 2008 IWWC regulations.
Right.
And I just assumed that that's what it was, since I was working on regulations in 3 other towns over the last year and a half. And that's coincidentally, since those towns shared the same wetlands agent, we worked on the same sort of community stuff. It turns out our regulations were updated in 2013. So we have an older set of regulations on the website. But does anybody remember working on the regulations in 2013?
13.
Anyway, so at that time, we adopted many of the statutory changes that we have in front of us this evening to adopt into the regulations, which are not our current regulations, though they do appear on our website. Is this a problem? No. Okay. So we really haven't got a problem. So I just wanted to preface what we're going to do based on the fact that you'll see some stuff that says we should be adopting these changes in 2008 from the deep, from 2009, 2012. Well, we don't have to adopt them. We did already in 2013. And we even discussed these things at length at least twice over the last year. And we just weren't aware of the fact that we had already adopted those changes to the regulations. Are they important changes? No. Some of them talk about identifying a butter by using the tax list only in the grand list. Another section talks about, we used to issue the permits to the fire department to put in dry hydrants. We no longer do that. They have the authority through section 4(2)C of our regulations to do it without getting a permit from the Wetlands Commission. So they can actually go into the pond, do the digging, and that's a rarity, meaning nobody is allowed to dig in a wetlands exempt from the regulations, except for the fire department, not even a farmer. So there are a few other sections that talk about the changes to 8.7D. And what 8.7D is of the general statutes, it's the statute where we share a lot of responsibilities and time frames with planning and zoning. For instance, if planning and zoning approves an application for 5 years, we can't approve it for 2 years. We have to approve it for 5. So that was another regulatory change over the last 12 years. So what I'm trying to let you digest is that none of these changes were of any substance to us. Another change was that public water supplies had to be notified of a wetlands application. We don't have a public water supply. So I could go on, and you won't find anything that's been changed over the last 12 years that you'll say, oh, well, this is critical. Regardless of the fact that we either adopted these or not, we still had to adhere to them. They are the law. So we've done that consistently, but we didn't adopt them for a few years, meaning we adopted the regs that changed in 2009, 10, and 11, and 12 in 2013. And today we will work on adopting the regulations that changed in 2015. And those would be the only ones that have been where we have a statutory change. And I'd have to look that up, but I believe it's it's one I referenced earlier on the notifications. Let me go to it. So excuse me while I open up something on my computer. Okay, here we go. And this is, let's see, as I work down to the bottom, I had listed all of the changes for the last 13 years. And so the change that we'd be adopting, that change as far as the statutory changes, is 2015, the advisory change is to the Connecticut General Statutes 87D, additional notice to those listed as owners on the property tax map or most recent grand list. So that is the change that we're going to be adopting this month, next month. I'm going to recommend that we keep this in place and then act on it next month for a number of reasons. Some of these discoveries on my part are very recent, so I wasn't really able to digest it fully. I think we could probably go forward and approve it, but I think there's too many inconsistencies as far as what I put out for you to look at versus what you really have to look at and adopt. So you can forget about the 2008 through the 2012 advisories, and now the only one that you have to adopt would be the advisory for the Connecticut General Statutes 87D, where they identify that really all we really have to do is go to the grand list. We don't have to do a deed search to find out who the abutter is. So that's fairly insignificant, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
then above that, what we did talk about that's consistent with for our commission, which is unique to our commission, is that we talked about some changes to the fee structure. And those changes are, I have them listed in front of me, and you could pull them up, or maybe Flo can pull them up, but I could read them. It's not much to digest, so just maybe keep your ears open and your eyes shut. What we did is we had a engineering environmental consultant fee of $85. Well, let me tell you that no environmental consultant or engineer is going to work for $85. They just don't do that anymore. So I upped it to $150 per inspection, or $150 per billing per hour. So I did the same for an environmental consultant. Does everybody still hear me? Because I lost your images. No?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I don't see you anymore, but I wanted to make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
so what we did is we tried to make our fee structure consistent with what's happened over the last 7 years. We can't get an engineer to come in for $85 an hour. So we have to pay them $150 so they'll do the job. And so that's what we use for a fee structure when we're reviewing an application and we need an engineer to look at the application. We have to pay that engineer $150, and the applicant has to reimburse us for what we pay the engineer. And the same for an environmental consultant. Let's see, inspections for compliance will be charged at $50 per site inspection fee, or $50 per half hour or part thereof. We raised it from $35 to $50. And then we added, the applicant is responsible for the cost of the publishing of the legal notice of the commission's decision. The approximate amount of the publishing this notice will be assessed at the time of the filing, meaning we have to let people know what it's going to cost them for them to get a permit. If you were down in Westport and down in that area, some of the simple permits that we issued that people got, like Jim Blair tonight, he'd be paying $5,000 and $6,000 to get for each one of those applications to get a permit. So some people are going to balk on it and say, no, forget the wall. I don't want to get it if my application fee is $5,000 or $6,000. So we have to tell people in advance of processing and going through the application on what it's going to cost. So sometimes we have to guesstimate. So that's part of the filing is giving them an idea what their cost is going to be, and within 15 days of their filing, we have to give them a real good idea of that cost. We have to assess whether or not we're going to need a lawyer because of the type of application that's before us, whether we're going to need to hire an engineer, whether we're going to need to hire a consultant. So we have to process this and get a feel for, we may need to do X, Y, and Z. And then we have to figure out how many hours, because we can't bill them after the fact. It's unfortunate, but the statute stuck the Wetland Commission in having to tell people what it's going to cost at the time of the filing. It's very difficult to do. One of the last applications I worked on in Andover before I left was a gravel pit operation. It cost them, I think, $11,000 for
Wow.
that permit because we needed an attorney, we needed an engineer, and we needed a environmental consultant due to the presence of the spotted salamanders and wood turtles and such and such. So like the environmentalist got probably about $2,000 in inspections and et cetera, et cetera. The engineer got a couple $1,000, and our attorney was probably over $1,000. So, but we have to do this in advance because we're stuck with that burden. I wrote these fees. I wrote this fee structure some 15 years ago with that in mind. And I think I have to credit myself. I stole some of this from other towns, of course. I'm not that brilliant, but we've never been stuck with an exorbitant fee from processing an application. So one of the things when I was looking at trying to make sure that we weren't going to have to pay for an application was that we used to be $35 for someone to put in a public notice in the newspaper, and then it was $70, and then it was $100. Now it's close to $200 for each one of those public hearing notices. So I wanted to make sure the applicant was aware and that they had to pay for those. They have to pay for those public hearing notices. So we had left something out in the past, and I wanted to add it tonight, is the applicant is responsible for the cost of publishing the legal notice of the commission's decision. The approximate amount of publishing this notice will be assessed at the time of the filing. So we wanted to cover the cost of processing an application. We wanted to make sure that the consultants we can get a consultant to review an application.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna do it, Brady. Sorry?
Ron has a question.
Yeah, Ron, do I have to be quiet and listen?
I hope so.
I'm not finished, Ron. I'm
Hey,
not
hey,
finished.
look, who's doing this at the moment? Are you the guy that's making these decisions about the cost?
Yeah, basically, do you want to do it?
No,
No. So you
but
need
the
somebody.
timing is ridiculous. I mean, at the time of filing,
Yes.
a decision has to be made, and I don't
Yep.
see that as reasonable.
It isn't reasonable. So, but here's what you do, Ron. You say it's going to cost $100,000, and that's
And
it.
then come in,
And then you
come in under
reimburse.
that number.
Then you reimburse them whatever's left, whatever you
Yeah.
don't spend of that $100,000.
Yeah.
Or you be more reasonable and you say, hey, I know it's going to involve an engineer reviewing a plan. I know the damn engineer is going to spend 3 or 4 hours on 100. So engineering, 600. I know the town attorney needs to look at it. He's going to spend 2 or 3 hours at $225 an hour, X. So I try to do it so we're safe, you know?
Good, good.
You don't have the background to do it. I can't say to the commission, oh, it's your responsibility to set the fee here. What do you think? And then I sit back and I let you think. You're not going to have a real good feeling for it. I do because I've done it a number of times. So that's the way that's done. And that's one of the considerations when you look at a fee structure is that we are burdened with that. So, okay. That's the fee structure. That's what we talked about. Oh, one other thing, I'm sorry. One other thing we talked about was that we would, in section 1910B3, we're going to add to the regulations, 1910B3, an applicant in the lake zone required to complete the nutrient allocation worksheet to comply with the zoning regulations to reduce the nutrient loading by greater than 15% of the required reduction, a filing fee shall not be required. Meaning, if we get an applicant who is going to increase the amount of reduction by 5% over and above the 10 that's required, we felt that it's respectable on our part, with consideration, that we would just forgive them their fee. So it's going to cost us $150, but the lake is going to benefit, $10,000 as far as the cumulative benefit for these kinds of increases in the reduction of the nutrient loading. So I think everybody at the last meeting was in agreement. They liked that. This is not
Right.
the first time you've heard the fee structure. It was presented at the last meeting. This is the narrative. The narrative that goes with it is the first time you've heard that. Yes. So those are the changes that we basically agreed to. The state of Connecticut, they didn't the state of Connecticut has never once reviewed a proposed regulatory change that I can remember in 30 years. They did this time. Darcy Winters looked at it and said, oh, John, you know, you call yourself commission. Well, in section X, the statutes refer to you as an agency. So under that particular section of the regulations, you got to change commission to agency.
Right.
And then the other thing is we've identified that the date of receipt and the date of submission, and we tried to qualify what they were and how they were distinct. And she said, drop that, just refer back to 8.7. So we did that. So there were two recommendations, not recommendations. These were two changes that the state asked us to correct in our regulations. And I've adjusted the regulations to reflect those changes.
John, question for you.
Please.
Didn't she also say that once we have the regulations ready, that we should have it checked by our lawyer, our town lawyer?
Nah. No, I don't know if she said that, John, but we're not going to bring this to the town attorney. Let me tell you why. You
Okay.
tell me, you say, John, you're all full of it. We're going to bring it to the town attorney. It's going to cost us $500 or $600. What have we changed? We changed the statutory requirements under for the 2015 advisory. That's per the general statutes. The wording that's interjected into our model regulations is given to us by the state of Connecticut. We've changed our fee structure to add another $70 to the review process for the engineer and the environmental consultant. We've allowed for somebody, if they increase the nutrient loading, if they reduce the nutrient loading by 15% instead of 10, not to pay as a fee. That's it, John. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to have your town attorney charge you $500?
No, I don't.
Okay, no,
I know that was one of the memos that you sent around
yeah,
that said that they were going to, suggesting that we do that.
yeah. And I'm sort of hyperbolizing, meaning, yeah, it's not a big deal, but certainly what we've done is nothing for consideration for the town attorney. And I don't want to, and he's a good attorney, and I don't want to give him any of your money, our money, your money. You're the residents in town, for something that is, it's not controversial, and it's simple, and you know, it really is. So I would say no. If you want to think about it, think about it. A couple other things. In looking at the 2008, which is on the town website, we'll get that off there. And then the 2013, there were some inconsistencies. In the 2008, they had an appendix A, B, and C, and D. In the 2013, they only had an appendix A. What I would recommend is that we keep A, and A is the reference to 1-1Q, which is a farming definition. So I'm recommending that we keep A, because that's good to have that there so people can read it. This is more informational than regulatory, meaning that's not our regulation. That's the general statutes. This is from Connecticut General Statute 1-1Q, and then it goes through the litany of what's considered farming. And every once in a while, it's great to go to it to see that farming is inclusive of you know, such things as keeping bees, or having a cow, or having a goat, or handling plants, drying, packaging, processing, freezing, grading. That's all farming. And all of those activities are exempt from our regulations. So if you want to start to, you want to dig a pond or something, get a cow and you can dig a pond.
Is there anything as far as the number of acres that you have to have?
Well, there's a little quirky thing with the regulations as it pertains to the farming and ponds. The pond has to be 3 acres or less, and it has to be essential to the farming practice. So if you have 1 cow, no way are you going to dig a 3-acre pond in Columbia for 1 cow. I mean, you don't need it. It's not essential to the farming operation. In fact, we probably wouldn't let him dig. We probably would not let the guy dig a pond exempt from the regulations for 1 cow, because I don't think 1 cow needs a pond. So we would
You'd be
struggle
surprised.
a little bit. So meaning, we may issue him a permit for a pond, but certainly we're not going to say you're exempt from our regulations because you went out and bought a cow and then dragged it home so you could dig a pond.
This year he may need a pond.
Well, Mary's got a pond in her backyard.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's 1-1Q, regardless of whether we're looking at 2008 or 2013, which is our regs. And if we look at 2013, the version I looked at didn't have a Appendix B and C. It had an Appendix A, which we just read. Appendix B is that reference to Section 8.7D, which talks about hearings and decisions and time limits and the date of receipt and the notice to adjoining municipalities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would just make sure that the 8.7D that we would keep in Appendix B would be the updated version rather than the version which that I may have grabbed from one of the other regulations that were floating around. Because 8.7D changes more frequently than probably any other statute because of the conjoining with wetlands and other commissions. There's a lot of opportunities to sort of correct and amend and fix things as time goes on. The last appendix that I would say that we retain, keep, would be Appendix C, which is the nutrient allocation worksheet, because it's important to have that as part of our regulations, because it is part of our regulations in a way, because we said many years ago, we said that when somebody applies for a permit, a wetlands permit, and they're required to fill out a nutrient allocation worksheet, that we want that worksheet submitted with the wetlands application, because we want to review it and we want to be able to recommend to the planning and zoning that we think that the mitigation should occur here and not there. Meaning, it may be very simple for somebody doing the nutrient allocation worksheet just to mitigate it on the other side of the house next to where the barn is, 190 feet from the lake, where the activity is occurring next to the lake. There's nothing in their regulations. They were planning on making a change which said they recommend strongly that it be mitigated in proximity to the lake, but I don't think they actually fixed that language to my satisfaction. So it is very possible to conform, to mitigate, and to satisfy the requirements of the nutrient allocation and not necessarily do it in proximity to the lake. That is the closest proximity to the lake. So in our review of that application, which we can't deny or approve because it has nothing to do with us, we could make a strong recommendation that we don't agree with the applicant and where they recommended that they would satisfy that requirement. I would want to see it done as close to the lake, not close to the lake, but I'd like to see some of the runoff mitigated that was going to get into the lake because of the proximity of the runoff. The house, a patio that's near the backyard, near the lake, things like that. So, or the driveway that comes whipping around down a steep slope off of the Woodland Terrace, that we mitigate some of that driveway versus doing something that's convenient to the landowner, where they would just put a drain from the roof, where we would recommend to planning and zoning, and we would recommend at the time to the applicant that we're really not happy with what they are going to present to planning and zoning to mitigate and to reduce it by 10%. We think you should do it here. And so that's my spiel on that. So we actually have that in our regulation where we talk about, we want to look at something resembling an Excel worksheet or something resembling your mitigation for an activity, and agree or not agree, recommend to the P&Z or not. So we have that as part of our Appendix C. And then Appendix D, I believe, was a combination of a number of things, one of which was a timesheet for when a permit is issued and when it expires, and If it was issued before May of 2009 and had not expired, it could be good for 14 years. Or if it was issued before July 1 of 2009, it could be good for 11 years. So all of that is now time-wise is expired, so we don't have to worry about it. There are no applications that have not expired since 2009 that would still be active before till 2023. So, and then whatever the 11 years that they gave him in July of 2009 has already expired. So it's not something, we don't want to throw a lot of stuff in our appendixes that have no reference to reality. So I think we're safe in getting rid of that, all of those references. So that's basically it. I hope it wasn't confusing because I talked about a number of different issues and maybe not cogently, but anybody need me to say this all again? No? No?
John, may I ask a question?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm only kidding. Go ahead, please.
No, so about the nutrient allocation worksheet. So that's specific to applications on Columbia Lake, not for any area of special concern within the 200-foot review area. It's specific to Columbia Lake.
It's specific to the Columbia Lake watershed. So even if you're on Hunt Road, heading out towards Lebanon, if you're in the watershed, you have to comply with those nutrient allocation worksheets.
And that's for any application within the review area of that watershed or the
Any
lake.
application requiring a zoning permit. So basically what they're trying to capture is structure. Then 7 or 8 years back, they realized that what they also wanted to do, and this was part of our recommendation, was that impervious area. If somebody wants to convert something to an impervious area, they should have to comply with the nutrient allocation worksheet. So the Planning and Zoning Commission redefined structure in a sense and said, if you're putting in greater than 100 square feet of patio or impervious area, you also have to comply with the nutrient allocation worksheet. So it's no longer just a structure, a shed, a garage, an addition. It's now any increase of impervious area greater than 100 square feet. Is that right, Jim? Yes. Okay, so yes, so to answer your question, it's in the watershed. It has to be a zoning permit requirement or a planning and zoning requirement.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Everybody still there?
John is.
Where did John Allen go?
Yeah, we're here.
John Allen's gone?
John Allen, yeah, he may come in and out. He's been having issues with the connection at home.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
He lives way out there on Lake Road. I understand.
Right across from Flo.
Yes, just about.
Hey, occasionally I'm camping and I'm Zooming. The worst thing in the world, I tell people, forget it. I can't participate. There's no such thing as a good Wi-Fi at a campground. I am sorry. It doesn't exist. So if I take off and there's a meeting, I have to go to McDonald's. I have to bring my computer to McDonald's to do Zooming.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's it in a nutshell. I can put this all orderly and together for the next meeting. Meaning I have like 12 documents. Some of them are from the DEP, some of them I put together, some of them the old regs, the existing regs, the proposed regs. I mean, I went through so many different gyrations, and I think that it's not fair for me to throw it all at you. Let me just take the 2013 regs. If you agree, put together the appendix A, B, and C, which were in one reg, not in another reg. Put together the fee structure as I discussed this evening. Add the 2 documents that the DEP wanted us to revise, as far as 87D and agency rather than commission. Doesn't mean we have to change our name. It just means that we have to change. We put commission in. It says agency. We got to put agency in that particular reference. I think that's about it. Really, we didn't do anything do anything really, uh, we, we pretty much conformed to what we were doing in the past. We didn't really change anything. We didn't create a new buffer zone or talk about different mitigation that has to be done. So I think we're pretty safe. I don't think we need the town attorney I don't think you need to spend some of your hard-earned tax money on the town attorney for this particular change. So I would recommend that we continue the public hearing until next meeting, that John Valente get you way prior, at least 2 weeks prior to the next hearing, get you the finished document, that is the document that you would then look at and then comment on as far as whether or not you want to proceed with it or modify it. Right?
Yeah.
Sounds like the way to go, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm sorry it got a little confusing, but that's,
So do we need a motion to continue the public hearing?
I would just do it. Yeah. I would. Yeah.
I'll make a
I'll make
motion
that
to
motion.
continue the public hearing.
Second by Tip.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thumbs up, yes.
I think Tom's the chair now, right? Tom's the acting
Yeah.
chair.
Tom,
Okay.
step up, man.
Yeah, sit up straight. Sit up straight, will you?
He doesn't have a shirt on.
That's it. That's it. You were leaning back. I only saw your neck. I like that. I like the beams behind you, Tom. Nice job.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
John Allen is back.
Okay. There you go.
John Allen is in.
All right, I'm back.
Okay,
Hi,
so
John.
we're gonna go. We're moving into the regular meeting, John. We're continuing the public hearing till next month when John Valente presents a fresh, revised document for the commission to look at.
Okay, thank you. I lost my Wi-Fi and I told Flo that.
What's your wife?
Wifey.
You better get in your sports car and go get her.
All right, so we're going into old business now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first thing is IWWC 2022-03, application of Penny Welch to rebuild the lake wall and stone patio and possibly replace the deck. Assessors map 0138, lot number 50052 in the LAR zone. Okay. John, you want to give us a background on that?
Yeah, we were all out there. So we're all familiar with it. Jim proposed to submit an application showing the removal of that footing. Remember that footing that sort of bumped out from the bottom of the wall? He's also going to raise the soil around the wall because of the receding. The soil has sort of settled. What was it, less than 12 inches, Jim? You're going to elevate that?
Yeah, I think it's in the 6 to 8 range.
Yeah, right. And I think that's pretty much immediate to the wall. Within 8 feet of the wall would have to be elevated. So it's not a considerable distance. The lot is very flat. I mean, the lot is flat. So we're not worried about storm water. We're not worried about, velocity for storm water. Jim has a couple opportunities there to sort of divert the water and the gutters away from the wall that he's working on to a controlled area. And generally we use hay bales and silk fence. So no water can get to the work site. It has to go to the corner. And then at the corner, you have some stone or some hay bales. We know that it's all sandy soil that Mrs. Walsh has. So we're not worried about runoff. There's not going to be a large disturbance. How far back from the wall will you be disturbing soil, Jim?
Only about 4 feet is
Yeah.
about the max.
Okay. I'm going to I revised I sent everybody. Did everybody see my draft summary ruling for Walsh and Balmert? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I revised it, but, and Jim submitted a letter for both Balmert and for Walsh, detailing what he would do, basically regurgitating, the litany of things that you have to do if you're going to do a wall or you're going to do a lakeside project. No stockpiling of soil without without it being covered at night. Jim covers all of the disturbed areas with plastic before he leaves the job. Putting the plastic down in the lake so the stones and the dirt and the debris from the stones that you remove from the lake wall, then all of that soil and such is captured on the top and not into the lake. He has to take some elevations of the wall, so we're pretty comfortable that he's not going to raise it up 5 feet. It doesn't make too much of a difference in this particular site, but nonetheless, it's a requirement. We also require that they set 3 to 5 stakes out in the lake and triangulate it back to the wall so we don't end up bumping the wall out a little bit. I really haven't seen that happen, but maybe once or twice in 30 years where somebody tried to bump the wall out a little bit from the edge of the property. And those people are gone now. I think they've all died, to be honest with you. But it was a family that everybody knows on the lake that are no longer around. But other than that, we've gotten a lot of compliance in that respect. But we still require triangulating the wall so we know it goes back to where it was. We allow for minor couple inches here and there, and that's generally discussed by the contractor at the site, saying, I'd like to straighten this out and then give you back something in another area. That I don't believe that was discussed here. I think looking at that wall, Jim, I think it comes in and out a little bit here and there. Are you gonna try to straighten it out? Or you didn't see that as an issue?
I don't see that as a major issue.
Yeah.
And that concrete collar is what I call it, the concrete facing
Yeah.
in front.
Yeah.
That's all pretty straight and consistent. The only thing that's a little funky is that jut out there where the flagpole is, the point. But even that, it's like we're going to go right back because that's got to match up to the wall going down towards Therians, and then the other wall has to match up heading back over to Rams. So it's going to be we'll do offsets like you said and make sure that we end up back in that same footprint. There's no reason to change it.
Okay. Well, I think the big thing on this particular site, other than the litany of the same, basically it's just a regurgitation of the stuff that we required over the years that we found as best management practices that Jim has, adhered to. And we've consistently required these. We fine tune them sometimes, but I don't really have an issue on this particular lot because there's no slope. And we are going to direct the water to a couple different points. We are going to use silt fence to direct the water away from the job site. We are going to cover the material at the end of the day. We are going to stabilize the site, leave the silt fence up until the site is stabilized. And what I mean by that is where you disturb the soil, the lawn, and then you seed it and you hay it, that has to be protected until it vegetates. And the wetlands agent has to go back and approve the removal of the silt fence, the installation of the silt fence, the diversion, the staking, the elevations. So I go to these sites once a week, whether it's required or not. So I'll be out there at least once a week during the duration. So as far as the administrative, as far as the summary, the first 8 are standard. I sent Jim a copy of this, so he has it. The first 8 conditions are pretty standard, that you can't transfer this permit, that the approval is for 2 years, that if there's any changes, if the planning and zoning or the lake association say you can't do this and it changes the permit, he has to come back to this commission. And then I added any filling or creation of tracks by machinery is to be graded, level, and the installation of a barrier placed in the tracks to slow storm flow and to treat stormwater channelized by tracking. That's really of concern on steeper slopes. It's not a concern here, but nonetheless, it's a standard. All stockpiles are to be covered, wall to be elevated less than 12 inches above the existing grade. The existing grade is to be elevated. The existing grade is to be elevated no more than 12 inches behind the wall. Staking to be placed to triangulate existing wall face, at least 4 stakes to be placed in the lake with triangulation points measured on the existing wall to be approved by the wetlands agent. Silt fence to be placed below the wall, geotextile fabric or tops to be placed on lake bottom to receive debris, stone from the demolition of the wall. This is to be inspected by the wetlands agent prior to the start of work. Diversion of stormwater from the above from above to be in place prior to the start of work and inspected by the wetlands agent. All disturbed soils to be hayed, seeded, silt fence to be remain in place until the site is stabilized. Silt fence in lake can be removed once the disturbed areas are stabilized and inspected by the town. Diversions of stormwater away from the disturbed areas shall remain in place. Then I want to add as condition number 16, the copy of the letter that Jim submitted on September 2nd, addressed to the Wetlands Commission, just to be in the body of this summary. And it's once again, it's a lot of it's a reiteration of what I just read. Some of it is specific to what Jim does, but I think it should be part of the conditions of approval. So that's it. That's as I see it.
Very good. So we have the summary ruling. Is there any other discussion on it? If not, shall we take a vote? All in favor, raise your hand so we can see it.
Who's making the motion, John?
What's that?
Who's making the motion?
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the application for the Walsh property.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you need an alternate vote tonight?
You're seated, I think, aren't you?
It's nice, Mary. It's nice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Looks like it's approved. We have a majority here. Okay. So that takes care of that one.
Okay, good.
Next on the agenda is IWWC 2021-04, application of Alan and Beth Baumert to rebuild the lake wall, replace a deck, install a fire pit, repair and replace existing docks and landscaping at 3 Webster Lane, Assessors Map 013D, lot number 0002 in the LAR zone. John, you want to bring us up to date on that?
Sure. I'm trying to find it. Here it is. Okay, good. I failed to mention earlier that that there's Jim, on the Walsh application, you're rebuilding the existing existing patio to the same size as the existing patio.
Right.
Okay, so meaning you're just changing the type of stone you're using there and correcting any problems with that patio, but it's not going to increase in size.
No, sir.
Okay, so that's not going to, that will not require a nutrient allocation, okay? Because he's not increasing the impervious area. Same size, same wall, same patio. This particular application will require that Jim get a judgment or a decision from Connie on whether or not it qualifies as a for a nutrient allocation, and I'll explain that. But the Baumerts, I think, rebuilt the house in 2017, something like that, or?
It was, I believe, completed in spring of 2017.
Yeah, right. So everybody remembers there was a little small cottage there, and then the Baumerts came in and rebuilt it. And at that particular time, they had a nutrient allocation worksheet. And they not only did they comply, but they reduced the nutrient loading by approximately, I'm going to guesstimate, the equivalent of 700 square feet of impervious area. So they basically reduced, if just to try to put it in terms that you could sort of digest, rather than giving you coefficients of runoff and giving you numbers like 0.02234, which mean nothing, it's equivalent, the reduction that they did over and above the 10% that was required was basically equivalent to infiltrating 700 square feet of patio, okay? So, having said that, I asked Jim to submit that nutrient allocation worksheet back in 2017, which he has, which is part of the document here. And in addition to that, Jim will be building a patio, which then has to be reviewed by the town. And how much stone are you putting underneath the patio, Jim?
It's going to range. On the short end, which is by the lake, about somewhere between 9 and 12 inches. And I'll be pitching the base, the bottom of that dig will pitch backwards towards the house. So the back end of it will be about 15 to 18 inches. So you get plenty of pitch there and a way to collect the water before it runs into the lake. So average depth about 12 inches or so.
Okay, so there'll be some. So what measure are you using for the water to find its way underneath the stone, underneath the patio stone, into the stone underneath that? Right? What do you do to get that water to go underneath the patio?
Well, the patio is permeable, so it's going to be a level surface with open grade and joints that are filled with a jointing stone that will allow water to pass through.
Okay. So though you're grading it away from the lake back towards the house, so if the water is graded in that direction, would the water then find its way in at the edge of the patio also?
Yes.
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 Okay. So so if we're looking at infiltrating 1 inch of runoff from, say, and this patio is sized, how, Jim, size of the patio?
It's that overall width is about 11 feet. The deck, I don't have the plan in front of me. It's
Approximately 100 square feet?
no, that deck that's on the land is bigger than that. It's bigger than that. I forget the exact dimension of it. The dock is 11 by 18. I think the patio is not quite that big.
Okay, so we're approximately 200 square feet.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so just so you have a feel for how much water he's infiltrating, we typically look for at least 1 inch of infiltration off of an impervious surface. And by getting 1 inch, we're removing like 95% of all the potential contaminants, because as as the water washes over the surface, typically within 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch of rain, you get 90% of all of the contaminants. Now, if you're talking about oils and gas, maybe not. But certainly with 1 inch, you are reducing the loading by greater than 90%. This particular design has the capacity for holding up to approximately 6 inches of runoff from the patio. But you also are you going to have lawn area graded towards that patio?
Yes, the lawn that exists presently and is going to be, is going to remain after we're done. That pitches straight down to the lake right now. So by doing what we're doing, we're going to capture, I think it's about, conservatively, I think it's about 400 or 500 square feet. And it's probably more than that above that, immediately adjacent above it.
Okay.
So, and then by widening also that deck, we're adding on that, 9 by 10, 9 by 11 area. Then we increase the width, so there's even more chance to get the lawn into that drainage area, the patio and the pavers and all that, before it takes that shot into the lake. So.
Okay, and then what do you use? What are you going to use to sort of something to assist in retaining the water there, rather than the water running out and going through the lake wall? Meaning, what? Go ahead.
I'll use a membrane, some plastic sheeting that typically we would do behind the wall. We backfill with crushed stone, and in this particular instance, instead of a filter fabric, in that area, I'll create a curtain from the bottom all the way up to the top that will remain in place. And then, so the water can't pass through that. It'll have to kind of stay where it is and gradually work its way into the soils.
Okay.
So
So,
I'll use plastic sheeting and some type of membrane.
okay, okay. So what we're talking about is that since it has close proximity to the stone behind the wall, that we don't want to have this, we're giving him credit for 5 inches of runoff retention from that surface. We don't want to lose it all because as it fills up, it goes through the stone that's adjacent behind the wall and then through the cracks in the wall. So we have to retain some of that. So typically, my preference would be that you use the type of material that Jim is talking about, some type of membrane, but maybe not necessarily bring it up to the top, but just shy of the top, so we don't have a situation where we could get some frost that would then lift that, because the water would then sort of flow out before it hits the top, before it hits the bottom of the stone. So we could talk about that. So we have a situation where we not only are we retaining more than an inch of runoff from the patio, but we're also retaining more than an inch of runoff from the 500 square feet of lawn. So, so there's a definite positive relationship between the project and reduction of nutrient loading, not just from the proposed new patio, but from the lawn, which is probably equally or more important. So, and then we had that. So I wanted to make sure the commission understood what was going on, that with this. I don't like patios on the shorefront. I never did. Our first big issue in town that I can remember in the 30 years I've been here was with a patio that got, instead of it being wooden as was described on the plan, and what I mean is that they didn't say it was wooden, but they showed wooden slats, and then they went and they installed a stone patio, and we went to court on this, and we spent, whatever number of thousands of dollars, because the contractor and the homeowner proceeded with going forward and putting the patio in, which wasn't part of the permit. Anyway, so I don't like patios. We've had them evaluated by Dr. Cortman, and he doesn't really have a problem with them, other than the fact that it offers an opportunity for geese and such in an open area to come. It's sort of enticing or inviting. But other than that, he had no negative. There was nothing really seriously negative about patios if they're infiltrated, meaning if we don't allow the water to run off into the lake. So we have an added benefit here, that not only are we're removing lawn, but we would be infiltrating the area where the lawn once stood, where there's now a patio. And not only that, but we're also infiltrating 500 square feet of lawn. So I don't have a problem with the project. As you saw when you were at the site walk, both sides of the house, both of them have been improved as far as drainage that's coming from above, from the driveway on the what side is that? The west side of the house, and then the drainage on the right side, which is a stone swale which goes down to the lake. So there's opportunities on both sides for Jim to sort of take the storm water and move it into a structure or into an area where it's protected and it's not flowing through the job site. And that's a definite improvement. Then we have the same, we have basically the same requirements that we had for Walsh. The rutting of any tracks is more important there. There's a little bit more slope on that property. It's still relatively flat in the front. There's not much slope, but coming down from the driveway to the front, there's a little bit of slope. All the stockpiles are to be covered with plastic. The staking to be triangulate the walls, same requirements. Silt fence to be placed below the wall, same requirements as Walsh. Diversion of storm water, same requirements. All disturbed soils to be hayed and seeded. I think the important thing on this site is going to be keeping the storm water, because there's more velocity, keeping the storm water away from the work area. And that has to be done with silt fence and then creating a control point before it gets into the lake. You know, some hay bales and or stone check dams, so we have no problem. But one of the practices that Jim employs that I like is that they put silt fence in, so no surface water gets to the wall. It all has to go to the side and then through a control point. So I'm pretty satisfied that that the site will be stabilized. We also have a letter from Mr. Blair sent in response to a letter that I sent to him on going a little further to identify some of the controls that he was going to put in place. So Mr. Blair sent a letter to myself and to the commission, and I would like to see that be made part of this condition. And basically, if you don't remember, it states the construction sequence, the stones to be placed on tops and the plywood on the lake bed. These will be existing or imported stones. This is their practice. The erosion control paragraph is boilerplate for most jobs. This specific site has no downspouts to be concerned with, and a fairly significant infiltration system is in place to accept any runoff from the driveway. That's those two systems, one on either side of the house. Nevertheless, on my plan, I show all silt fence to be in place at the foot of the bank that approaches from the driveway area, which will be our access point stretching across the property. I can amend my drawings to show specific positions of hay bales that will be used as additional protection as check dams. Regarding the dock, all lumber for the dock we build is cut to length on the bank in a stable location where the sawdust can be contained and removed from the property, never over the lake bed. That includes decking, whether it's pressure treated or composite. The dock is rotted. That's the problem. But all the piers that may be needed would be set on the lake bed with no excavation being done either by hand or by machine. So that's a good plus. And goes on to say, I have included the use of a plastic membrane to prevent water from the base of the patio migrating to the lake wall with the crushed stone, and a swath of stone on the upper side of the patio to accept any runoff from the lawn area or above. The base will also be excavated in a manner to pool water on the house side of the patio to capture and infiltrate larger rain events. So Mr. Blair has submitted a nutrient allocation which shows an excess of the required amount for the prior application. And then in this scenario that's presented, he more than sufficiently mitigates the patio by providing the 5+ inches of storage from just the patio and then the 500 feet of lawn beyond the patio. So
Okay. So we heard the summary ruling by John,
yes, you did.
and do we have a motion to approve it? Somebody
I'll
make a
move to approve. I'll move to approve the summary ruling for the Bulmer application.
Second.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay.
All right, so we have a second. All in favor? Say,
Aye.
raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
very good. Okay,
All right.
thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, Jim, take care.
Yeah, take it easy, Jim. Bye. Okay, the next item, I think we've already covered it, is the proposed regulation changes for the state deep.
Yeah, we always put that again in the regular meeting, just in case we're ready to act, we have a place to act on it. Otherwise, we would be up in the air. So it's to be continued as stated in the public hearing.
Very good. Okay. All right. What about the approval of the meeting minutes on August 3rd, 2020, the special meeting? Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes? Whoop, can't hear.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Who's going to second it?
I'll
second that.
All right, Bill seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
And now, what about the special meeting minutes of September 14th, 2020? Do I hear a motion to approve those?
I should abstain.
Okay, a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay. We don't have any audience of citizens here tonight, so we'll skip that. Is there any communications or correspondence?
None. None that
John?
I know of. No, no.
Okay,
Sorry.
on there. How about any open discussion for the commission? Anything anybody want to talk about? Okay, we'll skip that. And the 2021 schedule, I hope everybody had a chance to look. I had a question on that, that the meeting was on Thursday or something. Two of the meetings were on Thursday.
Yes,
Could you put that up there, Bill?
there you go.
Yeah. That's a day that we came up with. If the meeting on the Monday is a holiday, we moved
Yeah.
it to Thursday. But,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
that's why it's Thursday, but any day works, but that day worked in the past.
Okay, but what is this in parentheses, the building department Thursday?
Oh, we're gonna meet downstairs in the building department if we have a live meeting.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So that's where our meeting place will be.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and that's the
I
same,
had one live meeting with 4 members of a wetland commission in an auditorium. Okay, so if you can find an auditorium, if you want to get together, fine, but I'm not going to meet in no little room. Sorry.
okay, so that's also in September, right? So we got 2 dates.
Labor
Yeah,
Day,
there you
yeah.
go. Oh, yeah. Well, everything will be fine by
Labor Day,
September, right?
probably, right? Labor Day? Okay, okay, they look good to me. Do we have to approve that? Do I hear a motion to
Yes.
approve it? Okay, who will make the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed meeting schedule for 2021.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Aye.
Okay, John, any administrative reports?
Yeah, we have like 10 administrative approvals. Is that part of their packet?
Where did you-
No?
No.
No, it wasn't. Huh? Yeah, it is. It's somewhere. It's somewhere.
Normally.
88 pages, but not that.
Yeah. Well, do we have that to throw up on the screen, Flo, or not?
I can try.
Okay. Okay. So,
Yeah.
oh, and I don't have them. I don't have it printed in front of me. I'm sorry.
Oh, there.
I assumed it would be thrown up on the screen.
What if I do this?
There you go. I can't read that.
No, you can't.
Um,
I don't think I can get it up.
Okay, okay. So we had coincidentally a very busy last 2 months, 3 months. So I issued I think at least 10, right, Flo? 10 administrative approvals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one recently and one in the works where a guy wanted to put a pool in now,
Yeah.
October, and off of number 5 Tungus Drive. So I told him today to get his act together and he could be in that pool in a couple weeks if he wants. So yes, a number, and none of them are of any consequence. It wouldn't be where you would say, well, John, we should have looked at that. There weren't houses 50 feet from wetlands, but there were just, activities. And during the month, I had 7 complaints,
Yes.
which I've resolved a couple, and I'm still working on another 5. I hate to give out addresses because, it's almost like someone's being accused of doing something wrong, and before we've made a decision on whether it's wrong or whatever, I'm telling the public that this person that lives at X street filled the wetlands, So I'd rather not give out addresses, but I will tell you that I'll tell you one. It's 4 Zegda Drive, the Regans. They have a little small pond. It's a property that used to be owned by Nelson Field. It's on that little place on Zegda Road that whips back out to Route 87 and comes in. I think the power line is there, I'm pretty sure. And Mr. Regan wanted to get access to his pond so we can look at it, and he took down some vegetation. In the process of doing that, he also disturbed some soil. So I issued him an administrative approval to get a vantage point over the pond, but to stay out of the pond. That same pond is the subject of a consideration by the fire department to put in a dry hydrant. So we worked with Mr. Regan. We're pretty satisfied at the moment. I've still go back out to make sure things are stable, but Mr. Regan built the house there 3 or 4 years ago. That's one. I'm also working with a couple people on Lake Road where the guy did his driveway last year. He improved his drainage. He dropped it off at the end of his driveway into a pool. And from there, it went over the wall onto the neighbor's property and caused some erosion into the lake. I met with him and convinced him to keep it on his own property, though he was telling me that it always went there. But I said, yeah, but you changed things. You know, you improved your driveway. You put in a pipe. Pipe increases velocity. You channelized it to one spot. So when I left him, he basically agreed to block the entrance or the exit of the pool towards the neighbor's property and try to keep it on his property. I have a couple complaints that involve filling in the wetlands, one from a farmer and one from a neighbor who's throwing some logs and wood debris in the wetlands. Yeah, you know, why not? And the farmer is actually throwing his manure in the wetlands, but I have to still, I'll be meeting them on Wednesday. It's taken a couple, 3 weeks to get out there to see them.
Excuse me, John, I have that list for you.
Yeah.
You want me to share it?
Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay?
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
On the top.
Oh yeah, the Sullivans. Let me go through this. James and Joyce Corso, they had a subdivision some 18 years ago, and then their daughter is getting a lot, and she's re-subdividing the lot. So I approved the re-subdivision and the proximity of a structure to the wetlands. The Sullivans, 2 docks. This is after they got their approval from us. The Sullivans are on Newford Drive, number 7 at number 12 or 7, Newford Drive. You remember being out there, guys?
Yep.
No?
Yes.
Yeah, well, they just took their house down last week. So I was out there. I met the contractor, all sand and gravel. He just went in. He picked the old cabin up and put it into a back of a truck and it was gone. And all we have now is an excavation. So nice and clean. Brand property, Matthew Brand. Grind stumps within 20 feet of river edge on 94 Eastern. I don't even remember that. Don't even remember. Application administrative approval for Angela Brand property management. Authorized agent is Matthew Brand to I think I know that. Yeah. This is down where Steve Harrington has his son-in-law and his daughter owned that business, so that's the name Brand. I got a little confused because I know Brands in Columbia, and I don't remember them living on the river. So what they did is they took down in the floodplain. They took down 20 or 30 dead oak trees. I mean dead. And I allowed them to pull the stumps on the ones that were greater than 25 feet from the river, and then to only grind the stumps. Any tree within 25 feet of the river, they could only grind them. They couldn't pull the stumps. So, and I think you guys, most
We
of you
looked
guys
at that, yeah.
took a ride out there, right?
Yep.
So you saw that, and it's you know, and so I'm pretty happy with the results, you know. Back to Sullivan, existing cottage. Okay, so we've been to Sullivan's twice with approvals, huh? Wow. Application, Garrett McDonald. Yeah, Linda, our old friend Linda McDonald, wants to jump in a pool behind her daughter's house. So they're within 40 feet of a wetlands to install an above ground pool. So we signed off on that, of course. I didn't get out there though to jump in myself. 38 Hennequin Road. I don't don't remember, we didn't write down what that was for. I don't
Oh,
remember
right.
what that was for.
Yeah.
Sorry. And to repair a retaining wall, 166 Route 87. So that was within 50 feet of a wetlands. 166 Route 87. 160. Yes, okay, yes, that was within 50 feet of the lake. Administrative approval for the Regans, we went through that for Zegda Road. And
That's it.
Sleepy Hollow Road, Hans, keep on making that go up and down. I'm gonna get.
I'm
ill.
sorry.
Regan.
That's it.
So one more, go up a little bit more.
No, this is, okay.
Okay, it was 29 Sleepy Hollow Road, Hans Vonderslip. Okay, we didn't do anything there. That's just a note to me. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so those are the administrative approvals. And I have a couple more complaints. I didn't, the ones that I read off are the ones that are actively pursuing. The other ones yet to do, you know, and obviously not as critical, but nonetheless. So that's it. That's all I did.
Thank you very much. That was great. And thanks for all the work you did on those regulations. That's a tough job.
Yes, thanks, John.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
well, yeah,
Should,
well, yeah.
You're here.
I'll accept that. Sure. Okay.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Have a
Everybody,
good.
Thank you.
everybody stay safe.